Merry Crimbus.
Merry Crimbus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Christmas Eve. And it's a weird one. It's a pretty weird Christmas Eve, really, isn't it?
It's going to be a weird Christmas day in some regards.
I have been in kind of Christmas denial for a long time, and I think it might be because I sort of thought Christmas isn't happening. We're not having a Christmas, surely. And I was right. But it does, well, we are having our Christmas. Let's not poo-poo our entire Christmas plans, but we're not having the Christmas that we thought we'd have. Few people are. But we've sort of steeled ourselves for like the new plans. We're going to have a nice little quiet Christmas, just the two of us.
We're still
and
having
all of the furry little critters.
Yeah, we're still having a Christmas dinner.
Yeah. Oh, damn, yeah, I need to do some cooking for that later. I've just remembered that. Sorry, you don't need to know any of that at all. Making a seitan joint, just so you know. So, yes. So, yeah, we've got like little, quite sort of low-key but nice plans. And, yeah, as ever, I think that as we've said throughout all of this, we're in a good position. It could be a lot worse. We've got each other and we can spend a nice little Christmas together, and it is the last Christmas that we'll have just the two of us, so maybe it's quite fitting that it will be just the two of us.
Yeah, although it is a shame that we won't be seeing any family, and obviously it's not the end of the world because we've got each other and we're gonna have a nice comfy Christmas and a Christmas dinner. It's gonna be nice, but any excuse to kind of see family this year would be welcome, wouldn't it? Because we haven't really seen.
Thank God we got married.
I know.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen your parents all year.
And thank God that was before the restrictions came back in, and there were new spikes, and it was all coming up again. So, because that's the only time I see my parents all year. I've not seen either of my siblings, and even just being able to go around to your parents and just being sat there with your brothers and your niece.
Yeah, like a few weeks back we sort of went over for a takeaway, and that was allowed at the time. We weren't mixing too many households or anything, and it was just like... It
just felt nice to be with some family in a room, and I wasn't, I think I was mostly sat in a corner, so munching my takeaway, just
that's
watching
all we let
people,
him do.
But
we just sit him in the corner and go, there you go, have some food.
It's just nice to be like in a space with some people.
Yeah.
That it's...
Well, this year really has made a difference in terms of what matters, I think.
Hopefully it's going to make people appreciate the kind of small pleasures. Hopefully, not least me.
Well, that sort of brings me to an aside that I wasn't actually planning on talking about on our notes, but it is interesting. I've been talking with a few friends, and because of sort of Christmas, fairly standard, it's usually quite consumerist. People do a lot of spending and buying and treating themselves and treating each other. And a normal year, but this year I've sort of gone the other way, and I've just sort of gone, I'm not really doing many presents. I'm sort of not really doing a lot for Christmas because it just doesn't feel like a proper Christmas to me. Like I say, I'm in a bit of a denial. But then some other people, because we're not doing any of the social stuff that we'd normally do, I've gone spend mad and sort of buying loads of presents and making really big sort of gestures. And I don't think either's right or wrong, really. I think at the moment, anything that gets you that little endorphin rush, then I kind of think, as long as it's safe and not harming anyone.
You've got to do what your gut tells you, I think. I mean, the difficulty comes if you're in a family where some people are going, we're going to do really small and not really spend, and then other people are going mad.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is true, really, of anyone in our family. No one's really going crazy.
No,
but,
I hope not.
I mean, we've all agreed with our siblings, haven't we, to
not really do
presents and things.
We're doing for like the nieces and that sort of thing. And
I think what with furlough and
little token bits, but yeah.
Furlough and other factors, a lot of us are a bit short of money this year, and it's just, but if you have the money, that's great. Enjoy it, have a nice time, because I think that is I was thinking about that before, like kind of. That would almost have been a way to go of like, well, we can't go and see anyone, but let's get nice presents and that's a Christmas thing, that you can do. But having said that, I've not felt like that's a way I want to go. I haven't felt like I know at least one present I'm getting that I'm quite excited about.
A big thing that I think
I don't think either of us getting many presents.
No,
but it's
I think a big thing for me is why I don't want to be particularly sort of consumerist and spendy is partly we're all a bit skinned, but more than that, because I'm shielding, I can't go out and shop. Well, the shops are now shut anyway, but even when I could go shopping, I wasn't. I don't really want to be buying all of my Christmas gifts for everybody on Amazon because they're making a killing and, you know, dodgy ground anyway. And like I actually this year I really have come to really appreciate my friends and family, and I would like to get them something nice, but I kind of think I might just sort of stagger it and just do random presents throughout the new year as a kind of
when you can actually give it to them,
when I can give it to them, when I can also sort of perhaps maybe spend a little bit more, maybe go on places, because it's probably going to be still a lot of online shopping, I suspect, for me for the foreseeable. Because old Babbins decided to make it hurt when I walk now, so that's fun. So even when I'm allowed to go shopping, probably not gonna. But at least then I can sort of buy from like little independent things like Etsy and stuff, which I could technically do now, but Etsy is a little bit more pricey than bargains you can get on eBay and Amazon and stuff. And so it's kind of like, I'm gonna do something, but it's just not gonna look like a Christmas something, I think, this year, because I guess it's one year that you can just kind of shake off traditions and just go, I'm doing it this way. But I hope that's all right.
You're looking at it very much from a kind of very selfless.
I'm not spending money in a very selfless way.
No, but you're talking about like buying gifts for others and things.
Yeah.
And just look at it from the kind of more self-centered perspective, maybe it would be nice to have a big present to open if I'm not seeing family, but I don't even particularly feel like that, and that's not like me, because I normally like presents and stuff, but it doesn't. Yeah. I don't feel like, I'm not fussed. I don't feel, don't get me wrong. I know I've got a couple of presents, and I'm going to be very grateful for them. But
he hasn't got any. I haven't got anything.
No, I think my parents sent something. So anyway, the point is, like, if I get a present, I just want to make it clear that I'm not going shunning presents or being rude about the presents I receive.
Bring on the presents.
But I don't.
It doesn't feel like it's the main slant of, well, not that it's the main slant anyway, but it doesn't feel like a big part of it this year.
Or like kind of, a suitable kind of substitute for like seeing family and things.
I think that's the thing. Like, I think I like gift giving, but I do like to see people open them. And I like to be with people when I'm opening what they've given me.
And also we've got like quite a lot of stuff. That's something we've learned from kind of lockdown and things. Is like we've got plenty of stuff to be getting on with. We weren't kind of short.
Trying to clear out a nursery has made me realise how much bloody stuff we've got.
We're never really short of things to do or watch or play or read or so. So it's kind of.
It's been a time to reassess. And I think that's actually sort of talking to everybody and just seeing sort of people chatting away on Facebook and talking to friends about how their plans have changed and whether their plans have changed. Most people's have to at least some degree. Like, generally speaking, there's fewer people attending whatever Christmas they thought they were going to have. Unfortunately, I've got a few friends who have to self-isolate entirely over Christmas because they may or may not have been in contact with someone with COVID, or because one of their households come down with fever, which may or may not be COVID, we don't know yet, but you've got to self-isolate until you get your test results and all of that. So there's some people who even had made little Christmas plans that were within the rules, and they're off as well, which that's hard going, because at least we sort of had kind of decided to bow out with a little bit of notice.
Of course, there's all the people as well who had travel plans and everything within the 5-day window, and then had those plans ripped up with kind of no time to go and no time to mentally prepare either.
Yeah.
And I feel a bit like, just talking about it now, I do feel, a bit sad that we're not going to see any family at Christmas. And, and we keep reiterating that we're kind of lucky and we've got little cats around to play with and a dog to stroke, and we've got each other, and that's all lovely. But I do feel a bit sad about it, so I can only imagine how people feel if they've got no other arrangements, or they haven't, got a partner to
I don't think we're going to have to do. Well, actually, a few of my friends every year for a long time have done Christmas too, which is usually in like January or February. It'll be a night where they'll get together and give gifts to each other as a second Christmas. Do a big dinner and everything. Maybe we'll just have to do a Christmas too. Everybody will have to do a Christmas too, and just be like, when we're allowed to do it, we'll have Christmas. Because actually, Christmas too is great fun. Did you come to Christmas too last year?
No, I don't think so.
I think you might have had a gig actually.
Probably.
But yeah, like, it's good for, and it's sort of it's quite nice because it's a bunch of friends all getting together. But having what seems like a sort of traditional family Christmas, and that's nice because it's like, oh well, you can't see each other on a day because everybody's sort of tied up with family things, so it's just doing it a different day. But I guess maybe we'll just have to kind of adapt and do that sort of thing and just make the best of it. And I think that's all anyone can do right now, is make the best of it, because it's a shitty situation and I don't think anybody's pretending otherwise. So yeah, it is what it is. And yeah, it's a bit, from a personal perspective, yeah, it's a bit disheartening. It just feels a bit but at the same time, it is just a day and we can do these sorts of things another day. It isn't for me really about the dinner, it's about the socialising. When we're allowed to do it, when restrictions lift, we'll just have to throw ourselves into having like family nights and games nights and doing things that we're allowed to do as and when we're allowed to do them. But it just feels, this year kind of feels like just, we keep sort of thinking, oh, when things are better, and then actually it's sort of, you might get a few steps forward, but it's never actually gone quite to being sort of normal. And then a few massive leaps backwards. And actually I feel like actually, and this leads us on to sort of some of the other things that we want to talk about, that if anything, I wouldn't be surprised if things get a little bit stricter before, like even stricter, before they get better. Because of, and I think I touched on this in the last vlog, but the new variant of the COVID strain that has been identified, because there's more news on that. There's another one. So we got 2 new variants now. One that it seems did originate here in Kent, as I think I mentioned in the last vlog, which we didn't know much about then. To be honest, I have been trying to do my reading on this, and I still can't really find anything hugely helpful or definitive on the, like, I think there's just not enough data about it. But it definitely, the one thing that does seem to be agreed by the scientific community is that it's more transmissible, significantly more transmissible. And actually the stats in the areas where it is rife, which are basically London and the southeast and Wales, seems to be that in a very short space of time it has very much become the prevalent strain. So sort of 60 to 70% of positive COVID tests that are coming back now, of which there are plenty, are actually this new variant rather than the old variant. So it's spreading like wildfire despite relatively strict lockdown measures. So that's a worry. And because of that, hopefully the vaccine should still work against it. Fingers crossed. We just don't know yet, really. There's not been enough time to sort of see if people who've had the vaccine get it, because actually most people who've had the vaccine still won't have had their second dose of the vaccine. So even if somebody who's had their first dose gets the new variant, even that's not going to be sort of definitive proof that the new vaccine doesn't work against it. So you've got to have 2 doses of the new vaccine. And actually I think all of the vaccines, because there's 3 main companies that have produced a vaccine. Only one of them so far has been rolled out in the UK, which is I think it said Pfizer, but it's spelled with a P, P-F-Z, I don't know, P-F-I-Z-E-R, I think. So I think it said Pfizer. But yeah, they're the only one that's actually been approved for use. So that's actually started to roll out, I think, early December. But you have to have 2 doses around 4 weeks apart. So even those that have had their first dose can't possibly have had their second dose yet. So I don't think any scientists are really willing to sort of state whether or not they think it's definitely going to work on it. So we just have to cross fingers for that, because it would be a real kick in the teeth if we finally get a vaccine but then the virus mutates and it doesn't work. But I have done a little bit of reading on the science of that, and it does seem more I was a bit cynical about this in the last vlog, but actually looking into these new mRNA vaccines, they're quite adaptable. So actually you can, so if it needs tweaking, you can tweak it. It doesn't mean that you need to sort of start from scratch. So actually if the virus mutates slightly, they can adapt the vaccine and it should still work. So there's positive thought that it should still work, but it's still going to take a long time before we get everybody vaccinated anyway. And if it's now spreading so easily, even with lockdown measures, you kind of need to get stricter with the lockdown measures. The science, as I say, at this stage is very sketchy, because it's just, that's not criticism on the scientists, there's just not been enough time to collect enough data to really make any meaningful responses. But what they are noticing seems to be that people with this new variant, and I'm speaking about the UK variant here because I find even less information about the other new variant, which I'll get to. But it appears to be that people who have it just have a significantly higher viral load. So they're just giving off more of the virus in their cells. So in their breathing, in their touch, basically, they're just, the bodies are making more of it to spread. They don't seem to be getting any more sick than people that already were doing anyway, and they don't seem to be sort of having a different course of illness. It's roughly the same stats in terms of hospitalisation, roughly the same stats in terms of all of that. Same incubation period, all of that jazz appears to be roughly on par, but the people who have it basically are giving off more of it. So when they've done swabs to sort of up the nose to sort of check whether you've got it, they're noticing just the amount of virus that they're getting back on a swab is significantly higher, which then makes sense that people are breathing out a lot more, which means that I guess things that maybe you've been quite lucky not to pass it on, because, you know, just like in the supermarket, passing in close quarters, you can't always keep your 2 meters. Maybe the previous variant with your masks on, just you got lucky because you didn't breathe out much, not too much of it sort of got into the air, more of it's getting out even with these measures, which makes me think they're going to have to go stricter, which I think is going to have to mean closing schools. Sorry guys, I know there's a lot of people that really don't want that to happen, but it's just too many people mixing. Also, one thing that is different about the new UK variant does appear to be children catch it more easily and children spread it more easily. And that kind of makes sense when you look at sort of virus patterns of previous viruses that we know more about in history, of viruses adapt very well to us adapting to them. So we kind of, like it previously, it seemed to be targeting older people and younger people seemed to be immune. But then we stopped all the older people mixing and only the younger people were mixing really in schools and education centres. And so then the virus adapted to be a bit better able to mix among that group. And as we know, little ones not great at the old social distancing, and it's a big old melting pot. And I just think, unfortunately, and education is massively important, and realistically, homeschooling is incredibly difficult, and quite hard to actually even just sort of oversee and make sure. And it's again as ever, it's going to be the more disadvantaged pupils that get the raw end of the deal, because they're not going to be able to afford for sort of private tuition, or even might not even have their own sort of access to a laptop or an iPad to do their home learning. It's gonna really affect a whole generation of kids, but so will huge numbers of deaths to their friends and family.
This is it.
And I just think it's a shitty choice. It's rock and hard place, but ultimately the thing that has to come out as my personal priority is saving lives.
I'd rather be alive and a bit behind on my reading.
Yeah, because I kind of feel like and it's not going to be everybody's in the same boat, because as I say, the more well-off pupils will have better advantages and probably one-on-one tutoring and things like that. But yeah, at least a whole generation will have all had the same sort of challenges, and that will be, so it's not going to be sort of that when it comes to sort of GCSE time or A-level time, that one or two people in the class had a really raw deal and everybody else had a great time. It's going to largely sort of be affecting people across the board, and perhaps we just have to adapt to that. But it's shit. I get it. It's not, nobody wants schools to be off, because it's difficult. It's bad for education. It's bad for socialisation. It's also bad for the parents who need to be able to work, because that really does limit quite a lot of people's ability to work, and finances are tough for everyone right now. And somebody saying, well, suddenly you've got to be looking after your kids 5 days a week, you can't work, that's not nothing. That's a big fucking deal, and there's no easy answers short of more government support and more bailouts, and in truth, like, I hate to say it, but the money does run out at some point. They are like, they could always do more. We could scrap Trident and then we could all just have a year off, but you know, maybe we should do that. And HS2 while we're at it.
Yeah.
So I don't give a shit about people being able to get from London to the north faster, and I'm paying for that in my taxes. But anyway,
sooner your business was allowed to continue, and and many others
So,
around here locally.
there are things they could do in order be able to
not all local businesses, obviously.
But yeah,
some local businesses are run by cunts.
Yes, but that alludes to something that's very local. And
I shan't name names.
No, but if you know, you know, and if you know us and you don't know who I'm talking about, ask. We'll have a chat. Yeah. Massive cunt. Anyway, so that's an aside.
There's a cat in a chair over there dreaming.
There's a dog upstairs barking as well. What's your point?
He's just adorable. Look at him. His little.
He's twitching.
Foot was going, and he was. If you could see him, guys.
Yeah, he is.
If you want to see him, check out my latest video. Well, we'll come to that later.
Yes. So it's all a bit of a mess, really. And I'm laughing mainly out of hysteria rather than finding this funny, because it's really not. But it's as ever laugh or cry sort of situation. And so to add to this, so this new variant appears to have originated here in the UK, but there's another one that around about the same time appears to be emerging out of South Africa, which appears to be even more transmissible than our one. So that's fun. So what's happened that I don't know as much about it. I don't think anybody does, other than perhaps South African authorities. It's been reported to the World Health Organization and all of that sort of thing. But just in terms of sort of readily accessible and also layman written, like journalistic articles in newspapers, I can't read the actual scientific papers on these things. It doesn't mean anything to me. So I need somebody to sort of translate it into real world speak for me, which is what I've done all the way through this, and I do try to post articles to back up what I say where possible.
Someone at the window.
We're just going to pause. Somebody's here to collect the dog, I expect. 1 second. Apologies, we are back. Yes, it was someone coming to collect the dog to walk the dog. So the barking will now stop. So I was talking about scientific papers. There is some science coming out of South Africa. They're not being tight-lipped about it, but it doesn't appear yet to have been put into a nice handy article that makes me understand what's being said, other than basically it does appear to be similarly more transmissible, and it has more mutations than ours did. So basically viruses mutate all the time anyway, and because they just replicate so often that like oddities happen, and sometimes they go, this helps me spread, so they take off, and other times nothing happens and they fizzle out, and quite often they're entirely redundant and don't really do anything. But yes, so this one particular strain in the UK has done very well for itself by mutating several times. It's got a few differences between the old strain, but it is essentially still the same virus. Same with the South African one, but it's got more differences, which could have implications with immunisation. But again, the science that I have read on the vaccines do appear to suggest that even if the virus has mutated fairly significantly, they should be able to adapt the vaccine to still give us coverage. But that is by no means confirmed or opposed. It's just too early to say. But what we do know is it spreads very easily. So we, as well as most of the world, have closed the borders essentially to South African flights and people coming in from South Africa. Except I think there is some limited essential travel allowed, but it's no commercial flights and things like that going on. Which is fair, and anybody who has arrived in the UK from South Africa over the last 2 weeks has to self-isolate for 2 weeks. I think there's a lot of contact tracing going on with that. Because of how virulent it appears to be, they're trying to be careful. They're doing now what they should have done in February last year with the coronavirus the first time around, really. But at the same time, most of the world has gone, England and in fact the UK, stay the fuck home. We don't want you here either. Can't say I blame them, because our strain is doing pretty well at spreading like wildfire, as I think can be demonstrated fairly well by how Kent act, like when they had a whole England-wide lockdown for all of November, basically, almost everywhere rates went down, which as you'd expect because people aren't mixing, so not actually during but just after you start to see the sort of graphs all come down in the right direction. Kent didn't, and it's not like everybody in Kent was just having raves as far as I know. But something I think that was actually part of the reason why they kind of went, something weird's going on in Kent, and started looking a bit more closely at the local test results and data that they were getting out of Kent, because something strange was afoot. And basically that proves that we're keeping you up.
Sorry, go on.
That even under strict lockdown measures, this new variant still spreads. So I can't really see any way around that other than go stricter and literally have no mixing whatsoever, and have literally like you have to go pretty draconian, I think. And I don't like the sound of that, because I also don't think it'll be a short time that we have to do it for. I think we do have to do it fairly nationally. Certainly Wales needs to do it, because we're doing really badly on the old COVID front, guys. I think obviously daily figures do fluctuate slightly, but over the last week a couple of times we've been the worst in the world in terms of number of cases per capita. Most of Wales, or lots of Wales, is over 1,000 cases per 100,000, so about 1% of Wales have coronavirus actively at the moment. That's good. And by good I mean horrifying. So yeah, we need to just do what we've got to do until, and I think maybe admit defeat, go zero COVID, close borders, close ports, really go strict, and then just deal with little outbreaks. But you just got to get the incidence down. But to be honest, even just going zero COVID strategy now is a gargantuan task, because what do you do with hospitals that have hundreds of patients with COVID? It's not really possible to sort of isolate them and isolate the staff treating on them and make it impossible for that to still spread. Care homes, same issue. It's gonna be a long old slog, and even with the vaccine, assuming that it works, it's gonna take a long time to get everybody the vaccine, like just in terms of logistics. Like it's particularly the Pfizer one, because it's got some challenges in terms of how you can transport it. It needs to be kept at extremely low temperatures in transit, and then you can thaw a batch, and then you have to use that batch within a few hours, thawed down from about, I think it's -80. It's really low temperatures anyway, so it's not like you can just ship it out to your local doctor's surgery and go for your jab. It sort of has to be quite carefully planned, so as not to waste any, but also so as the most people can get it. So actually that's been a logistical nightmare, as have so many things in this. It's like all the people that are behind the scenes actually just sort of doing the grunt work of getting vaccines to people, organising health boards, organising sort of staff for hospitals and doctors' surgeries, and all of that. I have to say, fucking hell, you're doing an amazing job, because this would have been a difficult job under normal circumstances, but with everything that's going on, and staff shortages and self-isolation and changing restrictions and the rules changing and the science changing and everything we're being told constantly in flux, anyone who's had any part in getting the vaccine to people deserves a fucking medal, as far as I'm concerned. And any of the staff that are still working in the NHS who haven't gone mad or left, like even those who've left and gone mad, I salute you. But yeah, people are still working incredibly hard, and I've seen a few people pointing out that earlier in the year there was a lot of goodwill and a lot of, we're all in this together and let's all sort of be grateful, and that does appear to have largely dissipated, somewhat understandably, because everybody is just having a rough time and everybody's pretty depleted by now. And I guess everybody's personal lives have got more difficult, and it's hard to sort of then keep up that spirit. But it is important that we do so, because the job hasn't got any easier. If anything, in Wales, certainly, we are now, as I've said, I think in the previous vlog, our hospitals are more full of COVID patients than they have ever been. So we are worse than we were at the first peak. That isn't actually the case in the whole of the UK. In England, they're still not quite at how they were in the peak, but they're getting there.
Also, I think we need to bear in mind how rough all this has been for sort of supermarket workers, like and other retail as well, but particularly like supermarket
people who've been
out the whole time, and and not to take anything away from nurses or anyone working for the NHS in any capacity, but or doctors, but a lot of those people, like, it is kind of a vocation. Like, they've made a choice to go and care for people, and that's something they want to do. And they weren't
hopefully there are elements of job satisfaction that come with that career.
Sure, and obviously they weren't expecting to ever have to do it under such trying, difficult circumstances, and I have nothing but respect and admiration. I'm not trying to take anything away from them at all, but also there are people who are working in sort of supermarkets who've been working all year, who have not expected to be ever kind of classed as frontline or key workers. They were just doing...
That's a very good point.
And not necessarily the most rewarding job, not necessarily the best paid job. And I'm sure this year they've had to deal with a lot of people being shitty and rude.
And I very much doubt there was even, like, there probably wasn't even in the first bout the gratitude that people in the NHS had.
No, there was no clapping for...
People are always... I've worked in retail in enough different types of jobs in my lifetime to know that people are never that nice to retail staff. Like... Your best case scenario is that they're adequately polite. And I think at the moment, with everybody tense and things sort of changing and things all shit and money tight and all of these things, people are being really shitty to shop staff. And it's not their fault, and they're working very hard under really shitty circumstances and not getting a lot of reward for it at all. And I guess that's at the same time they've got the backdrop of looking around quite a lot of their friends who might have been furloughed, who are sitting at home with 80% of their pay, and that probably sounds really sweet to most sort of checkout counter, self-stacking people. Like, I'd like to stay at home. And because the thing, like, we've had conversations about how much we would just like it if we could just hole up again, like we did in the first lockdown, because both of us were furloughed and we could just stay home and stay safe, was our thinking. Well, if you're a key worker, which Chris now is, that the classification has changed, so no furlough is happening for Chris. Chris is going to be continuing to work, but we'll get onto that. There's a plus side. So actually there may be people who are working on a checkout in a supermarket who've got high-risk relatives at home, and they know that they're going into work every day, literally risking their health and risking their lives potentially, and risking infecting others that love them, to be treated like dirt by quite a lot of people.
Probably be on the same pay they were in sort of February or whatever, and under work circumstances that have become significantly more challenging. So it's not...
No, that's a very good point, because it's easier, I guess, to sort of bang the drum of gratitude for the NHS, and they deserve it, they do, but not to forget other people. And actually it comes down to, it's not just sort of supermarkets even, it's sort of delivery people, post people, people who are still just emptying our bins every week and still going out and doing their job.
Basically anyone who hasn't been on furlough, has had to work all year as usual, and who isn't in a position to work from home or do their business via Zoom meetings, and has to interact with people in the world, then, well done, and kind of thank you, and if we are also forced to interact with people in the world and we're out at shops or we're dealing with delivery people or whatever it may be, try and treat these people with the bare minimum sort of respect and politeness, but
a little bit of gratitude wouldn't go amiss, but at the very least be respectful and polite. But I'm sure you guys who watch this are all lovely people who do all of that anyway, because you're my kind of people.
Yeah, right.
But I think it is worth thinking about. So there's a few more things that we actually need to cover, and we were trying, because it's Christmas Eve, we were trying to be succinct today, but as ever, we can't. We're terrible at that. That's not our
wheelhouse. And I worry as well it's been a bit downbeat, this one, but maybe reflecting the mood of the nation.
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
I had a couple of sort of positive sort of things I'd like to
go for it.
talk about. Well, Well, on a positive personal note, I have found out that I am eligible for a vaccine.
Yay!
Which I was speaking to someone from England about this the other day, and they said, "Are they rolling them out differently in Wales then?"
I think they're doing it differently by health board, so it's not even by
Okay.
sort of Wales. It was you that was. Couldn't remember who'd said this to me, but yes, I think different health boards are sort of managing it differently.
So I don't know exactly what
sorry.
the rules are for our health board or why, but I am commuting into work and working in a customer-facing kind of role, and so I'm entitled in our health board to a vaccine, and
Because it's got healthcare. I don't think that's going to be the case, unfortunately, for just general retail workers, even if it's essential. I
So
think it's because you're
healthcare.
NHS linked.
Yes, so I'm in a patient-facing role essentially. Now, I'm sure there are different ways of deciding who is the priority, and there's different pros and cons and whatever, and you know that's probably a contentious issue for a lot of people.
Even making those decisions, I wouldn't envy the people that ran that table.
So I'm not going to argue whether it's right or wrong. All I'm saying is, I have to go out and commute. I have to go into town. I have to be in a patient-facing role. I have to come home to my pregnant wife. I am not going to turn my nose up at a vaccine if I can get one. Obviously, I still have to have the first dose at the end of this month, and then I have to wait for my second dose for a month, so I still have to be very careful for that month.
Yeah.
And even subsequently for that, I'm still going to be sort of coming home at the end of the day, showering, changing my clothes, making sure I'm not passing anything on too early, because germs and things could still be on me, even if I'm...
I think we had become quite complacent, and I think that's just as a matter of time and having to deal with this for a long time. Earlier in the first lockdown, sort of back in April, May, if you went to the shop, for example, because it was usually you that went, it was before I had the pregnancy excuse, I just made him do stuff, we'd sort of like come in and immediately wash and maybe change and stuff, and I think just over time with, I guess, you get a bit complacent.
With me going back to work as well, you kind of
it sort of feels a bit like
anyway, and I'll pick up some things in the shop on my way back, and it just...
So I think so I think it's kind of the new variant being in circulation has kind of woken us up a little bit to go back to being a bit more careful on these things. But I have to say, I was very relieved because I am essentially shielding, so anything coming into this house was really only going to be coming into this house via Chris, but obviously Chris had to work, and that's just a fact of life. I will certainly feel a lot better knowing that Chris's chances of bringing something in are so much reduced because he'll have been vaccinated. It's not a free pass then even, but it'll just be peace of mind for me. And then therefore that I'm not going to somehow get ill, obviously, but also somehow like just through like we're not mixing with other households, but for example my parents walk the dog every day, so they do come, we hand over the dog lead. They like, I'm an anxious enough person that if somehow they get it, I'll somehow find a way to make it my fault, probably.
So I'm just hoping that in the month between my two doses I can be careful. Although, as I've said before, on the experience of trying to get about and do your daily life, if you're trying to social distance and you're trying to take it seriously, that is made very difficult by other people wandering around not really giving a shit and kind of not giving you space or allowing you to take space or whatever it may be. So that's frustrating, but it's good news about the vaccine, and
on a personal level it's a relief,
and I'm lucky. Bit more general, well, I don't know if this is positivity. I was thinking about the subject of Christmas specials.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Because generally that is a thing that happens. Yeah. And they can be a bit of a mixed bag. Yeah. Because sometimes you have a sitcom will come back and it's kind of past its prime.
This just feels a bit...
And they kind of crowbar in all the old catchphrases, and it all just feels a bit tired.
And a bit forced.
Yeah.
But then it can be done really well. Like, the one that springs to mind, I guess, more recently. Last year, Gavin and Stacey had their Christmas special, and I think overall that was very well received, and I enjoyed it. And I wasn't even the biggest Gavin and Stacey fan in the first place.
So, so I sort of had a bit of a look to see what's out there this year, and I
guess maybe it's been trickier to make things this year, hasn't it?
Yeah, and there are a few things. So if you like Ghosts, which I'm going to understand is very popular, a lot of people like a lot. I watched like 1.5 episodes and kind of If it's made by the
Oh,
team,
watching 1.5 says a lot.
well, yeah.
How'd you stop watching halfway through and you didn't enjoy it?
I wasn't.
What is it?
Sold on it. It's from the makers of Horrible Histories, which
Oh,
is a very well received kids show.
Yeah, I like
But now
Horrible
they've
Histories.
made a sitcom about a couple that move into a house that turns out to be haunted.
Right.
So I think they got it for quite a cheap price, but it turned out it's haunted, and then they have to live with all the ghosts in the house.
Okay.
So that's the premise, and there's a Christmas special of that.
Right.
There's a Christmas special of King Gary.
I don't know
Which
what that is
that's
either.
another sitcom that I've not really tried on the BBC, but if you're into that, good news for you. There is something I'm quite interested to see called The Play That Went Wrong.
Ah.
I only caught a couple of these when it was out, but I would have watched more had I got around to it. But it's kind of like a farce, and they act like they're doing a stage play, and everything goes wrong.
Yes.
And it's very silly.
I think it did start as a stage play.
Yes, I believe that is correct. But they did like a TV version of it, like the 6-part series, and now they've done a Christmas special. And I
Nice,
think that
okay.
might be quite a fun Christmas evening
probably
to
is.
watch.
I've
maybe we could watch
also
that.
noticed that National Theatre are still doing that. You can watch some National Theatre productions at home, which I'm very excited about. Unfortunately, the one that seems to be currently being advertised is Warhorse, which is massively critically acclaimed, but I do know it's a weepy. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I can take a weepy right now.
I'm not
I'm
sure.
crying over fuck all anyway.
That's it.
I
saw
cried the
that.
other day because I accidentally crumpled one of Chris's shirts. This is the level of pregnancy hormones that we're dealing with here.
You shared
cried.
You shared a link
Cried.
to that Warhorse thing to kind of show, oh, they're still putting them on, and I was a bit like, oh, I'm glad they're doing that, but yeah, I'm not sure how.
It's not the right mood for
not-
now. I don't
I'm
think.
not sure I'm massively keen on Warhorse. Yeah,
I
it's
do
supposed
think
to be very
I think
well
it's
received.
got a happy ending, but I
it's
think
supposed
it's
to be very
sad.
well received. I'm not that keen on war or horses. I don't know. Don't know if it's for me. There's a. Have you seen Upstart Crow?
Yes.
The Ben
I've seen
Elton
some of it.
sitcom starring David Mitchell
Yes.
as Shakespeare.
Yes.
There is not a Christmas special per se, but a lockdown special,
Oh.
which is interesting because it's all set in like what is it?
Oh, well, I guess it was
1600s or
plague
something?
times, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
so that might be an interesting watch as well.
Well, they couldn't work from home on Zoom, could they?
No, but yeah, so I think maybe that's the thing that I just wanted to talk about because that can when you. At Christmas, that's the thing that brings people together is just watching telly and shared telly experience. At a time when everyone's viewing is so fragmented as well, the idea that everyone is watching the Christmas things around the same time is like nice. So maybe we could give a couple of those a go.
Yeah, and actually on sort of Christmas spirit and Christmas viewing, you've been at some Christmas video making, haven't you?
I'm not sure how.
Not entirely festive.
No, I'm not sure how jolly they all are. I've made sort of 3 Christmas videos really.
3, I can think of 2.
Okay, well, are you in all of them?
I don't know.
I think you might only be in one of. No, you're in.
I'm in.
Well, there's a photo of you in one. I made like a spoof Christmas ad.
Oh, yeah.
advertising
No, there are
the-
3. Yeah.
Advertising a Christmas gift range. And someone's actually bought the leggings.
Who's bought the leggings?
Well, someone.
Oh, the leggings, guys. Oh, they're a thing to behold. You'll have to watch the advert just
Yeah.
for the leggings.
I'm not sure I should tell you who's bought the leggings. I should wait until there's a photograph of them in the
Oh,
leggings
no.
and show you. Yes, so that if that hasn't piqued your interest,
Oh.
you should check out the video for the leggings. But they're not really. I'm not really flogging merch. I uploaded this thing.
I didn't think anybody would actually buy anything.
Me either. This is it.
This must be someone who has done this as a laugh to wind you up.
Yeah, I've been making YouTube videos for about.
I hope it's someone like Simon Emanuel and he wears them on stage.
I've been taking YouTube a bit more seriously for about the last 3 or 4 months, really. So I don't want people to think it's gone to my head and I've started doing merch, right? This is very much a silly, playful video, but to upload a photo of myself to like a merch website to create these designs. But I haven't even
They're spectacular.
I haven't even put the web address in the video. Like I didn't intend for people to buy them, and actually. Like each one has to be printed up individually, so they're kind of overpriced for what they are, and I get such a tiny cut of any money that it wouldn't really be worth it. And also, I think I have to sell about sort of, I think you have to have a minimum amount before it can actually pay out.
Right.
So I'd have to actually sell loads of these things to make any money. so it's really not, the point being that it's really not me thinking that people want merch of me. It's not a money-making thing. It's just a spoof video. But I do think you should watch it and then go, someone really bought those leggings? Yes,
The
someone
leggings
did.
are like, to be honest, all of the merch is Shocking. But the leggings are, I think, a particular highlight.
So so that's going to be
the placement of the picture. Really, is the problem with the leggings.
That's probably like the most fun, silly video.
Yeah.
It's only about 2.5 minutes as well, so check that out. That's a laugh, and we'll put the links in the description.
We will, yes.
The other, I've done 2 other videos, and one of them actually has been my most successful video, really. I mean, I've got one video that's more successful, but that's literally a clip of me performing stand-up on television.
Yes.
So that's very slick and well produced, and it's in me performing stand-up in Welsh, and that's kind of had a bit of a lot of views on and likes and things on YouTube, which is lovely. But of the videos I've actually made myself specifically for YouTube, this one has been the most successful. And it's all about the Sainsbury's Christmas advert where they have a black family celebrating Christmas, and the subsequent racist backlash to that advert. And unsurprisingly, having made that video, and it got quite a few views and some nice.
And it got a lot of racist backlash.
Got a bit of racist backlash.
Yeah, you got, bless you, you got quite embroiled with quite a lot of fucking idiots for a few days straight after that. And I think you were a lot better than I would have been, because I think I would have just lost my shit. But you were trying to engage people in quite sensible discussions, but the trouble with that is it does rely on the people you're discussing it with being sensible people, and I think most of them were not.
No.
I think that's fair to say. But you can read the comments on some of the videos and make your own mind up.
And the third in my, I guess, trilogy of Christmas specials is I made a video about Fairy Tale of New York.
Yes.
And specifically the fact that every year there's a big debate about, when certain words are used, and when people try and do a radio edit, or say they're not going to put it on a playlist on the radio, or use it on television, and then it's controversy every year. It's become a bigger kind of...
It baffles me that it's controversy, because there's radio edits are just a common thing. Like WAP, for example, by Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. Is that that gets played on the radio, but it's a radio edit, and nobody gives a shit. Because nobody expects you to say rude words on the radio. The word that has been edited out of Fairy Tale of New York wasn't considered desperately offensive when the song was released, but it now is. So edit it. What's the beef, guys? You can still hear the song.
And some people anyway, so I get into all this in more depth in the video, so I won't give you all my opinions now. Do check out that video, and it's got editing and effects and all sorts on it. Also, it's got lovely little starting bit with me and Ford, one of my cats.
Aww. He's been so desperate for the cats to get involved in this vlog, and they will not go on camera. They don't like it. So
they don't like being picked up and shoved in front of a camera, weirdly. So, but he was just on the chair, and I got him in shot, and he ran away. But he's in there. He's in the video right at the start. And also, I started filming that video just as the new national lockdown things had been announced.
Yes.
And I was in a bit of a bleak mood.
Yes.
And I had a couple of drinks, and I think I captured, I sobered up.
Captured the mood.
Yeah, I sobered up before I filmed the bulk of the video, but I think the start of the video really captures the national mood.
I'll put the link in the blurb, guys.
So those are the 3 Christmas videos that I've made, and I think they're a bit of fun.
I think they're interesting, and I think that, like you say, these discussions, particularly with Fairy Tale of New York, do come around every year, and it's just guys, of all the things that there are at the moment to actually sort of expel energy on, getting really cross about a 1-second edit in a song that's been out since the 80s, if that's your biggest problem, you're probably doing all right. I'd say. I think chill out.
I just think Lawrence Fox was tweeting saying, "Oh, it's terrible. They need to have the original version. Let's get the original version with the original lyrics to number 1." And I just think if you're on the same side of a debate as Lawrence Fox,
give your head a wobble.
Yeah, really, really worry about that.
Yeah. So we should probably wrap up. There were a few bits and bobs to cover that as ever we didn't get round to, but it's Christmas Eve now, and I've got some stuff that I've got to get done.
Yes. So if you're watching this on Christmas Eve, Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
If you're watching this on Christmas Day, I mean, most years I'd say, God, have you not got anything better to do? But this year, I mean, get through however you can. If it's this, then that's very flattering. But I'd be surprised if anyone watches this on Christmas Day. But
yeah, I might look. I'll just look at the view counts to see if anyone's gone, well, this is a pretty bleak Christmas. Let's make it a little bit bleaker.
Feel free to let us know in the comments. I watched this on Christmas morning. Really brought my mood down. Thanks for that.
One little just positive thing to just leave it on, and it is really silly and it is really little, but one thing that I do love, and I don't know if this is a British thing or if this is just a human thing, but one thing that I noticed almost instantaneously when the new harsher restrictions were announced, within minutes there were top quality memes doing the rounds on Facebook, like just brilliant, really witty, really funny, really well made ways at poking fun at the situation and making light of a shit situation. And I think we need to have a bit of a meme spirit about this and just be like, well, like I say, it's laugh or cry, so we might as well laugh. And yeah, so hopefully you do have a Christmas that is a pleasant one.
But I just want to say my favourite one of those was the Spinal Tap one. Did you see that?
Yes, I loved it.
It's great. Where he's sort of...
it goes up to tier 4 now. Like, but why don't you just make tier 3 stricter?
Make that the top one. No, this goes up to 4.
Yeah. And also like the Scrooge from well, actually, I've seen just the original sort of very old film version.
Just a cat.
And I've also seen the one with Michael Caine from A Muppet's Christmas Carol. But you boy, what tier is this? It's just like, yes, well done. I like that. But yeah, on that note, we didn't actually even get into the fact that they've also gone a bit stricter in England. But you know what? We're in Wales and it's Christmas Eve. We'll talk about it after Christmas, shall we, guys? So I do hope that you managed to have a nice Christmas of some kind, even if it isn't what you thought it was going to be. Make sure you look after yourselves, make the most of it, eat whatever you want, watch whatever you want, and make the best of a shitty situation. Hopefully it will mean that we can have the Christmas that we want next year. So hope for that. And if you're watching this back in the future, looking back on it, it was a weird one, guys. It was a really weird one. But you know, it's just a day. We'll get through it. It's all good. So we will see you after Christmas. In the meantime, like and subscribe. There's absolutely no shame in it. And have yourself a good one. And a Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye.